What's up, guys? This is Sam, post-production. We just finished with a great episode for this week. Just a reminder that we have the link for all of your biblical tough questions, so go ahead and fill that out. It's linked in all of our socials, and hope you have a great day and a great listen.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Word is Truth podcast. Welcome back for the start of season 2. This is the very first episode of season 2. We're starting a leadership series, as you guys probably saw in the title. Me and Jaden are super stoked about this, and we're super stoked for you guys to hear this. But yeah, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Jaden.
And today, our special guest is Sam. I don't know how to say your last name.
Doud.
Doud.
Sam Doud.
That's what I thought it was. Someone told me differently, but Sam Doud. And basically the premise of this series is do you want to explain it, Jaden, a little bit?
Yeah, so the premise of this series is we wanted to get the perspectives and insights of leaders in the faith in our lives, because one of the big things for me is God has been calling me to grow as a individual, as a person in faith. Is what does it mean to be like a leader, and what does it mean to be a light? And so we wanted to interview the leaders in our lives and the lights in our lives, and just kind of see what they had to say, and just what does it mean to be a leader, what's the experience like, and how does that relate to our walk with Jesus. And I'm sure you feel the same way, Nathan. And so we just thought it'd be an interesting series, and we just like these people. It's fun to have you guys on. So, that's basically the premise of the series. So, yeah, we'll just get into it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you, Sam, for coming on. By the way.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for. It sounded like this was your first time on a podcast or anything like this. So.
Yeah, I've never done anything like this before. So.
Yeah. But
cool.
Basically, we have all of we'll be interviewing, starting with Sam, all of the leaders from our InterVarsity chapter here at NAU, and also our staff member, Cosmo, who I think we've mentioned a few times. But we're excited for all of these interviews, so let's just get started.
So we got some general questions for you, but if you feel called to talk about something else, feel free to. It's an open space. You don't have to stick to this criteria. Actually, we want you to if you have a story about one thing, we'd love to hear that story. Or if you have a lesson about one thing that's kind of off topic, we'd love to hear that too. So it's totally up in the air. Just do whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But yeah, so our first question is, what does leadership mean to you?
I feel like leadership means service, one to the community, but also to God, and being able to further his kingdom. And I think that was a really big thing of wanting to be a leader, is just wanting to serve. And that was something I always felt was missing from my life. So I was like, okay, God, you're giving me this outlet to do this for you and to serve for you. And so that's kind of been leadership in a nutshell, is being able to serve in that way.
How have you experienced specifically serving, at least, have you had any previous leadership experience?
I had, so senior year of high school, I was a leader in marching band. And that was serving a community that I didn't really align with that much. So it was kind of hard to be in that service mindset, because I was I'm serving these people, but I don't really connect well with these people.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't a lot of connection there. It was really hard to serve them and have that heart for it.
Right.
So that was a very different experience from this, where I do connect with these people, and I have a lot more in common because there's that faith in common. So it's so much easier to have that servant heart for them and to help them in that.
So so where I was going with that is where do you feel you actually serve? How does that look for you in your position right now?
I would say just being there for people to talk to. Being in leadership, I've been able to have so many great conversations with people, and I found so many different people that have had same experiences as me in life, and being able to help walk them through that as like I'm also still walking through it, and just guide them in that way has been a big thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's good. I like your point about like the servant, the service mindset, but you also mentioned this sort of like companionship with others, and like this closeness that you felt in the faith-based community, but not necessarily like the marching band or whatever. Do you think companionship is like an important part of being a leader?
Like companionship with the community in general?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Cool.
Because I think if you have better companionship, you can better lead because you're better connected and you better know what's going on with people, and then you can lead them better in that way. If you don't have that, it's really hard to know what people need and how to serve them.
Yeah, and that's like you're saying that's the whole point of service or
Right.
leadership is service. We see in like the Gospels, like the last will be first and the first will be last. Like to lower yourself as a servant. That's what Jesus did, and he's like the best leader. So I think that's so sick that you see in leadership, the heart of leadership is service, and to like lay your life, not your life, but like lay yourself down for others,
Right.
which is what Jesus says. It's like love, you know what I mean? That's so sick.
Yeah. And I think that like I was also coming from a place freshman year of like I needed that, if that makes sense. Like coming in freshman year to Ivy, I found this really great community. It took me a while to get to that point where like I had made connections and like people were, I don't want to say welcoming because they were always welcoming, but like having that deeper connection and having somebody that could help lead me. And so I wanted to step into that role for people coming in to like be
Right.
that person for them.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask is like, you talk about how there's a big difference in companionship and like relatability between your two leadership positions. Why, like, how effective were you? That sounds like a strange question, but like, do you feel like you were as good a leader in a position where you weren't as connected versus now? And like, why were you a leader then if you didn't feel as connected? Or is that something you learned through that experience, I guess, too?
So I guess in high school, I did feel connected, but I didn't know that there was so much more connection that could have been there. Because that's kind of all I knew. And I didn't have a faith-based community, so I didn't really know what that connection is like.
Right.
So I got into it because I was like, I recognized that I had some leadership skills. And like, I was like, okay, I'm the senior in this position and like, I can help these people out. But I think not having that connection took a toll on me, like personally. I was not a very effective leader at times. Like I would go to every rehearsal and it'd be like a panic attack before every rehearsal because I didn't want to lead these people and I had very little confidence to do so. Whereas that hasn't been the case here. And so I feel like that connection and that comfortability is a big factor.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear how you feel like that was. Can I ask if that was like a teaching moment from God? Do you think in leadership? I guess.
Yeah, I think it was a teaching moment also because through that I was not leaning on Him as much as I should have, and I was leaning on friends, but I was leaning on friends who weren't in the faith. So there was no faith background that they were giving me or helping me with that would have helped. Whereas in this case, there is. And there are still times when, like, I get really overwhelmed or I do, like, get a panic attack before something. But, like, I have friends who are in the faith and can give me that reassurance in that.
Yeah, that's super cool that it sounds like he was showing you, like, the importance of just Christian community and, like, communion with fellow believers.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
And I just wanted to say, like, I think it's cool that you want to be there for other people because, like, I don't remember if you said, but, like, people were there for you. And I feel the same way. Like, people were there for me a lot in my story. And that's, like, a big call from God is, like, you got to give back what you were given. And, like, I was poured into a lot by people, I guess, faith leaders early on in my faith journey. And it just, like, it feels really cool to, like, be able to do the same thing, because I know how much that meant to me as a new believer. And it was just like, oh man, that person is so cool, and they think like, and they're helping me, they're taking the time for me. And yeah, I just wanted to, like, say that I relate to you in that, and it's like super awesome that's a motivation for you. But yeah, like, we can move on to the next question we had was, how does leadership play into your testimony, if at all?
And so for this, if you feel like it's good to share a little bit of your testimony, please do, if that helps people understand, like, your answer or whatever. So
Yeah, I think it's kind of connecting to what we've been saying. But as far as, like, my testimony goes, I've always felt like the word testimony is, like, such a scary word, because I feel like I don't have that much to say, like, testimony-wise. Because I grew up in a Christian household, and I grew up going to church. I've been going to the same church my entire life. And there was no, like, point of, like, change, I guess, of, like, oh, now I'm following God kind of thing. But I remember going to summer camp the summer before 8th grade, and that's when I, like, felt it more. Like, God calling me to, like, you need to spend more time with me, and you need to know me more. And so that's where I got baptized. But even through high school, like, I wasn't as close with God as I should have been. And coming to college, I think just InterVarsity in general has helped with that so much. Like, my own personal time with God has been placed such an emphasis on that. And so I think leadership has, I guess, it's been the outlet for me to, like, do, like, the works part of it, I guess, to show it through works, and through the serving has been, like, the biggest part of it, testimony-wise.
Yeah, that's a sick connection you make. And we've talked about the faith versus works thing before, and I think it's so cool that, like, you saw this as an opportunity to serve, and, like, as an opportunity to, like you're saying, show your faith, because, like, we know that it's not works that save us. And so it's not like I want to be a leader so that I can be saved, but it's like you have such a heart for people that you want to be a leader to, like, show your faith and show, like, what God has done in your life. I just think that's so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
of course. My mind is blank right now.
Yeah.
So sorry.
That's really cool.
Sorry. Oh, that's James.
Very good. Our next question is, why did you decide to become a leader? I guess we just talked about that.
But I think the overarching question, there's a few, like, other things in here, but is how did God call you to leadership? Like, how did you know that was what God was calling you into?
Right. It wasn't something that God put on my heart. It was something that, like, God used somebody else to tell me that I should think about, which was at Mark Camp. And my friend was like, you should do leadership. And I was like, no, I'm not doing leadership. Like, that's not for me. And he was like, well, you really should. And I was like, okay. And so then I started, like, praying about it, and I would talk to Cause about it, and talk to my friend, and, like, trying to get me to see that, like, you do have something here, like, you have a gift and you can share it and you can help people in this way. And then off of that, it was just a lot of prayer, because I doubted myself a lot. And so I was like, God, do you actually want me here? Like, this is where I need to be, because there's so much else going on, and, like, classes are a lot and work's a lot, and I don't think I have time for this. But God was like, no, you have time for it, and you can do it. So it was all just prayer.
I relate to that, like, that doubt of if this is where I'm supposed to be, or if this is where you want me to be. I second guess myself and what God is calling me to, or what I think God is calling me to, all the time. So I really relate to that. And, like, it's like emotionally taxing to be, like, especially for something, I feel like that's such a big step. From what I understand, it's a pretty big commitment for InterVarsity leadership. So, like, what you're saying with the different time commitments and everything, like, that's a big, like, life change. And so, like, but that's cool that, like, how do you think he, like, confirmed it in prayer too? Because you said you prayed just a lot about it, which which I think is what I would do, because that's just like not my last resort, but it's like when I don't know what else to do, I just pray about it. So I'm curious, like, how you felt like he confirmed it through that, if he did.
I think it was because prior to prayer, like even thinking about doing leadership, I didn't have a reason. I was like, why would I do leadership? I don't understand why you would want me in this position and what I would have to give. And the reassurance through that you giving me the reason of you want to serve people and you want to help incoming freshmen and help them feel welcomed like you were in that way. And I was like, okay, I understand and I can make that connection.
And you felt like God told you that in prayer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also through conversations with like Cause, like talking to Cause through it, and started going to apprenticeship class, and I started seeing it there.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. I'm curious. This is kind of off topic, but it's just like, how would you say you hear the voice of God? Like you already mentioned prayer, and like through others, but is there a specific way that you connect with God, or because that's something I struggle with too. It's like, how do I know it's from God, or how do I know it's just my own thoughts or just someone saying something? So I'm curious how you hear the voice of God and like how you know it's him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good question. I like in this scenario, I just remember feeling like a peace of mind in this, and then it being reassured through other people. So it was kind of building on top of itself. But yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's really good. I like the being confirmed by other people part. I feel like I don't meet very many people who like truly like how do I say this, like hear God through others in that clear a way. I don't know, like I feel like a lot of times I'm like, I hear people being like, oh, I read this verse or I felt this in prayer, but like to know God, like that was God in that moment speaking to you through that person. It sounds like it was persistent too. And I think that's a really good sign. Like for me, like I'll hear something, what I think I hear something from God, and it's like, oh, that was one time. Can I be sure about that? But it sounds like it was persistent, and I feel like that's like a great sign that like it's something you should at least pay more attention to or focus on. So
Yeah, because that first time that I heard it from that person, I was like, this is random. And it doesn't, like, no. And then I hear it from the same person again. I'm like, well, you're just telling me the same thing again.
Yeah.
Then I talk to another person, and they're kind of saying the same thing. And I'm like, okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah, I feel like I like for me, I feel like if I hear things multiple times, it's like God being like, dude, come on. Like, pick up the sign, man. Like, it's right there. So,
yeah.
We had some more questions in that category, but I think we basically already covered them. You're like mind reading these questions here.
They just build on each other so easily.
I know.
Like,
these are great questions, aren't they, Jaden?
I know.
We made some great questions. We kind of already talked about your first leadership experience, but is there any you talked about learning how important community was. Is there any like other big takeaways, do you think, from that first like band leadership experience, or?
I honestly have been thinking about my band leadership experience in such a negative way for so long. So it's kind of hard to answer that question as like good, like takeaways in a good way. Cause I've been like comparing it a lot lately to what I'm in now. Cause I feel like I've so many conversations about leadership have come up recently. And just how much I hated being there. So I don't even know.
How about with your IV leadership experience? Like, what's been a good first memory of like, oh, this is what leadership is, you know what I mean?
My first memory of leadership here, I think would have to be tabling the first time, like before the semester starts when you're doing freshman tabling. That was the first time I remember being like, I'm a leader and like I'm here talking to new people. And it was really intimidating, but it was really cool to like actually have those conversations, and it fills you with so much hope for the entire year. You're like, wow, look at all these people that are coming up and signing up their name and like I can't wait to get to know these people kind of thing.
That's really cool. And that was at the beginning of this year, right?
That was last semester, but yeah.
So the beginning of
Or that's what I meant, beginning of this school year. Sorry.
beginning of the school
Yeah.
In
We had
August.
like the club fair
Yeah.
before, right? Yeah. Yeah, I was like trying to remember what the
because there
heck
was
you were
two
talking about.
tablings, and it was the second one.
Well, the second one was during the freshman thing, right?
Yeah,
But that was
that
before or after semester started? I don't remember.
that was the Sunday before school started.
Okay.
That's where we met you.
Yeah,
That's
because I didn't go to the other one.
I low-key, how many people were there? Was Cosmo there? Because I low-key only remember one of you guys being there.
It was, I think, me, Allie, Alexis, Cos, and Frankie were there. I don't know if the boys were there. I can't remember.
Cause was at the Lafayette table though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
there was
makes
other
sense.
Lafayette leaders
That makes
there.
sense.
I remember talking to you, but you don't remember talking.
I don't remember talking to you. I feel
What?
so bad, but I remember because the only thing I remember is like talking to someone, but I also remember distinctly like Allie calling out to Jaden.
Yeah, Allie was
And, like,
calling out
calling
to
us
Jaden,
over.
and like she knew Jaden, and so Jaden had. Well, she didn't know you, but she knew your name. So like,
Which is weird.
yeah, and so she's like, "Oh, it's Jaden again," and you just kept coming around, and then you brought friends, and I was like, "Okay, new people," and yeah, but you don't remember. But
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, I just thought like that's important to me too, Jaden, just because like you kind of brought me and got me like interested in InterVarsity, and now we freaking love it, dude. So
And I had a similar. My freshman roommate is who brought me to InterVarsity. Like I was determined that I was gonna find my own Christian group, if that made sense.
yeah,
Because she had come home and she was like, I found like I'm gonna go to this bonfire with InterVarsity. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm not gonna. I couldn't go, but I was like, yeah, that's fine. And she was like, you should come to Bible study. And I was like, well, I'll go find my own group and I'll go try a different one. And I ended up going with her, and like our neighbors went, and I did not really interact with very many people there. But I kept coming. I don't know why I kept coming. I was very skeptical at first. But she brought me, and I was like, wow.
it was low-key
what
just
happened.
like the Holy Spirit guiding you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
I was gonna ask you a follow-up question. I was like, why IV? But then you were just like, I don't know. I don't know why I kept coming back.
Yeah, because I remember my mom had sent me something on Instagram. She was like, oh, like Christian Challenge, you should check them out too.
Right.
I was like, okay. And I never went. I think it was just comfortability of like, there was a couple people I knew going to InterVarsity.
yeah.
So I was like, I'll just keep going with them. And that's easy.
Yeah, that was the same thing for me. Like, well, Jaden introduced me to like you guys, but then it's funny I say introduce because like he didn't know any of you guys at the table when I met you. But anyway, like he brought me. I didn't go to InterVarsity the first few times. I don't think during this last semester. So he brought me one time, and I think we already had other buddies going. So then I was like, people I know like this, so I might as well give it a try. And then it's literally the coolest thing ever. So like, I stayed.
And then another question for you. How did you go from being a skeptic of IV to wanting to become a leader for IV? Like where was that shift in your heart posture towards the club or the organization?
Yeah,
I guess?
that is like a crazy transition there. So I'm curious.
Mark Camp.
Hey, go listen to that
I-
Mark Camp episode from
Well,
season 1.
The skeptic was like, I remember sitting down the first day and they give you the sheet, right? And it's got no verse numbers on it. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. There's no numbers on this paper. And so I had to have my Bible open. And like I sat there with my Bible and the paper. And I did that for a couple weeks until I was like, okay, maybe this is okay. And like I had never studied the Bible like that either. So I was like, I don't really know what's happening. I'm not too sure. And I kept going because we had formed like a freshman table, the freshman group that never talked to anybody else. And then Mark Camp came around, and I really just wanted to get to know people and like become better connected within the community because I was not connected really at all. I started going to more things second semester, but I didn't really talk to that many people. So I was like, I'm going to go to Mark Camp for that. And that was my main push. Also was on an island, and I was like, the beach, I love the beach, let's go for spring break. And then after Mark Camp, just studying the Bible in the way that we did and how in-depth we got, I was like, I love it here, and this is fantastic. So,
Yeah.
and then leadership, I guess.
Was the like during Mark Camp, was that also like the push you were hearing from God too during that time about leadership, or how did like those two line up?
It wasn't a push from God, I don't think, at that point for leadership yet. It had just gotten brought up on the very last day. Like, we're opening leadership applications. I'm just sitting there, I'm like going right through right over my head.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then after that was when I started like actually thinking about it and talking to God about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. It sounds like you started, what am I trying to say, getting comfortable with Ivy, and then that was when he like started like actually pressing into that for you.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But yes, we have a few more questions for you. This next one, like, we want to ask in just like in general, how do you feel like your leadership experience has been with InterVarsity, or just in general leadership?
I would say with InterVarsity, like specifically, it's been good, but it's also been a rough year. Like, I think leadership has brought up a lot for me personally, not even like just leadership skills. Like, it's just brought up a lot personally. So I think that's been really tough, but leadership, like outward leadership, has been great. And yeah, just being able to connect with the community. But I think inward, God's been using, like last year, I think InterVarsity taught me, like, it kind of broke me open in a way, and like broke me up and to be more comfortable with people and like to do more things and get out there more. And then leadership showed me that that's not always the case, and I do need time for myself, because I had like gone on two opposite ends of the scale. I was like, wow, I'm doing everything with everybody and this is fantastic. And then I got into leadership and I was like, I'm a leader. I'm going to be there for everything. I'm going to go to everything and do all of it. And then I just crashed and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep going like this. So leadership was that turnaround, or not that turnaround, but like that eye-opening of like, you need to take care of yourself sometimes. In order to lead people, you've got to take care of yourself. And you also have to lean on other people to do that. And that's what like that leadership team has been there for, to lean on when I do need time for myself.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear that. Like, I think you guys, from what I understand, knew each other pretty well before leadership, or no? Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, we were all the Ivy leadership team was in the same Mark Camp class. So
Okay.
we knew each other pretty well from that.
Because like that from what I'm hearing, that sounds like it was really integral, at least for your experience in leadership so far, is like being able to rely on the other people in leadership and that like trust almost. Like, how is that? I'm not asking specifically these people, but like how is it working with others? Like, how have you what have you like learned from that, or how's that experience been?
Just being a team player.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, being like in a team kind of thing.
Like working in a team?
Yes.
Or just, I mean, I don't know. When I think of like the team and like what I've had to learn, I guess, is being vulnerable in order to be able to work in a team. If that makes sense. Like go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, elaborate. Tell me more.
Yeah, I'm trying
Tell
to
me more.
like we have to open up with each other and we have to lean on each other in order to work well together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me.
I don't know how else to say that.
No, yeah, I think that's like,
Because like, you have to know what's going on with the people on your team
Yeah.
in order to be there for each other. Because if you're not there for each other, you can't work together and be there for the community as a whole.
Yeah.
right. That makes sense, especially like when you're saying when like if you feel like because of your personal situation that you aren't able to do something, like you were saying, like you need to be open about that, so then the other people can step in for you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and like, that kind of reminds me of the groups we had back in Tucson. Like, there's no way we could have been there for each other if we didn't know what was going on. You know what I mean? Like, we were all struggling with with lust, and like how are we supposed to support each other in lust if none of us knew that's what we were going through?
Yeah.
And yeah, like I have no leadership experience, but that would only help with like being in the right position to be able to pour into others, is already being in that position of peace and not like relying. What am I trying to say? You're not just like fighting all your battles on your own. And it's pretty overwhelming. And like at least for me, like when I'm trying to do that, like I'm in no position to help anyone because I'm like only focusing on me and my problems. And like we're saying, the heart of leadership is service to others and selflessness and sacrifice for others. How am I supposed to do that when I don't have my own stuff figured out? You know, that's like what we were talking about last week is like remove the log from your own eye before you look at the speck in your brother's eye. And that is about like judgment and self-righteousness, but we also talked about like caring for yourself, which I think connects to what you're saying pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because like others pouring, you can't pour into others. No, that's not what I want to say. You can't be there for others in their problems if you don't have somebody that you can bring your stuff to. If that makes sense. Like having that inner team to be able to bring stuff to, so that then you can get stuff off of your chest and work through your stuff, so that other people can bring stuff to you.
100%. I really like that, and I think it's an important distinction, because I think not that what we were saying last week is bad, but we were more focusing on like that you have to be like more like you have to work on yourself first. I feel like it could sound like that's what we were saying, but I like the distinction you made of how like not that you have to be perfect to then be able to like serve others, but you just have to have like the same ability to go and like what did you say? Can you say that one more time? Do you remember what you said? I'm trying to remember the wording.
You need to have people to bring your stuff to.
Yes.
In order to work through your own things, so that other people can bring their stuff to you.
Right. So it's not that you have to be perfect before others can bring their stuff to you, but you have to be able to do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. I just really like that point. I think it's a distinction that we didn't make like last time we were talking about this. So I think it's a really good point.
Yeah, and like it also brings up for me, we've talked about in previous weeks how you want to have a system in place. Like we were saying, you need a good group of like an inner circle group of believers, because that's the most important thing to you. But also God calls us out of that into ministry and service to non-believers and believers likewise, but out of your inner circle. But you need that in order to like you're saying, like be poured into when you need that sometimes, because we're not always going to be on fire for God, or we're not always going to be okay. And it's important to have that group so that when you do need that service, you can have it. You know what I mean? It's not like you're fighting those battles on your own, which, I mean, God says it's not good for man to be alone in Genesis. It's good for us to be in community. It's good for us to have fellowship. I mean, Christ died for the church, which is like the fellowship of believers. So it's so important. It's like that's God's will for us. You know what I mean? I think that's a great point that you're making, the importance of having a system in place so that you can do good ministry, and not just trying to do it on your own and just push through it when it's hard completely on your own. It's important to be resilient, of course, but it's like trying to do that on your own is really hard.
Right. And through my life, I have not had that. Like we lived kind of far from church, and I was constantly so busy, so I never went to like youth group really, and I never had that like Bible study group or that like close group of Christian friends that like you can go through stuff with. Like, of course, I had my parents, and I would talk to them about pretty much anything, and they'd help me out so much. But that like peer aspect of it, I never had. So being in this position with this like core team that I can have that is amazing.
Yeah. Oh yes. This is kind of off topic, but like, I'm just like relating another part of my life to what you've been saying about just even the helpers need help kind of thing. For those who don't know, I'm a social work major, but and I didn't know anything about like this kind of profession or anything, but it's a very like emotionally taxing profession. And like one thing I've been learning is like, or they've been at least they keep harping on is like, even these people who could be giving therapy to others with all this hard stuff need their own therapists, or should have their own therapists, because like the exact same thing we've been saying is like, if you're not being poured into, then you can't be pouring out to other people. So, and I think we've talked about that same thing on this podcast before, is like having your well or cup or whatever analogy you want to think, is like, you have to be filled up first before you can pour out. And that's something God's been like harping on in my life too. Like he's been teaching me as well. So I think that's a really cool like thing you've been experiencing in leadership. That's amazing. The next one's more of a fun question about leadership. What's been your favorite memory so far?
Like memory of being a leader, or
memory of being a leader, or just so like,
okay,
what's your favorite memory of Ivy leadership?
I mean, there's so many like fun memories of like just leadership team stuff, but my favorite like day that I got to be a leader was Text a Toasty. For anybody who doesn't know, so Text a Toasty is where we collect questions from campus, right? And then we put together these like grilled cheese sandwiches or quesadillas, and we go out and we deliver the food and answer these people's questions across campus. And going into that, I was the most excited I've ever been. I mean, you both were there, but
yeah,
I was so excited to get to help people who hadn't done it before and empower them and encourage them to go out and do it. And I had so much energy, and I was bouncing off the walls, so excited to do that. And I went out once, but like just being there and getting to serve was like, as a leader in that capacity, was my favorite.
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna be honest, your positive energy was like so sick to see, because like how it worked is we have like our building that we meet in, so we were cooking and like preparing all our stuff in there, and then they would send us out in teams to go and like answer these people questions to different parts of campus. And every time I came back, like Sam, you were just like, oh my gosh, how was it? How did it go? You were just like being like, I don't know, it was just like a great environment to be like, it was very supportive and like energetic, and it was like exactly what we needed. Because like honestly, some of those conversations were really like hard. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, it's hard to just talk to random new people about like faith, and some of these questions are crazy, like personal and difficult. So then coming back and you're just like crazy big smile and like just like asking us tons of questions was really awesome. So like, thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I remember thinking like, is she okay? Like, you were so energetic. I was like, and not that it was like weird or anything. Like, I thought it was cool, but I was just like, this is crazy. You know what I mean?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
What the heck is going on with me right now?
You were thinking like, am I okay?
Yeah. Yes.
That's funny.
I was like ready to crash. Like, I didn't know what was happening with my brain or my body, or why I was moving so quickly.
Did you do anything
Private? Out
out of the ordinary to like warrant that, or like?
I had woke up at 6 a.m. that morning, and I had gone for a swim. Okay. And so part of me was like, it's just energy from exercise.
Right.
But there's no way.
But I feel like getting up that early and then exerting that much energy would like make you tired.
Exactly.
No?
That's why it didn't make sense.
Although I kind of agree. Like, sometimes I'll go on a run or something and I'll feel like more energetic after. So like, I kind of get that. But also like, to the extent that you were going was insane. It was crazy. But that was, yeah, I agree with Nathan. That was super cool to see. And yeah, the support meant a lot. So yeah, just thank you for that night. That was so cool.
Yeah.
It was one of our favorite memories too.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, kind of, but like, do you go on like, do you usually wake up that early and go on swims often?
No.
Do you do like, but when you have previously, has that happened before?
That was the first time I'd done it.
Like ever?
Yeah. I mean, other than like high school when I was like on the swim team.
Okay.
But yeah.
And that was like, oh, interesting. I don't know. It's just
I
like,
don't-
I was wondering if it was like a
and, like-
pattern of that or something, but.
Because I remember being a little tired that afternoon. And then I remember talking to Allie beforehand, and like I was just so excited. I had so much excitement, and I did text Satoshi the year prior, and I was terrified. And so, because I think it was before, it would have been before Mark Camp, but it was second semester, so I was like getting more comfortable, but still not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm gonna push myself in my faith, and I'm gonna try this out and do it. And it was fine, like everything went well, but I just remember being terrified. So I think it was I want to be there for other people who are also terrified maybe in this moment having to go out and bring the energy instead and be the happy side of that and help them maybe through their terror.
Yeah, that was like a great example of what you were talking about earlier of how like you just want to like help people and like serve them in that way and like just be that support, because that's something you experienced too, is like that nervousness.
Yeah.
And Loki, I was like I was nervous, but I was also really excited because like I just love talking and answering hard questions. It's actually the whole point of this podcast. But like even when we come back, it was just like I can't even describe it. It was so funny. It was like I remember like walking through the doors and seeing you like standing there holding the laptop and just like smiling and like, how did it go, guys? Like it was like, I say it was funny because it was just like unusual, but it was genuinely like awesome. Like,
but
to see
it
that.
didn't come off like fake, right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I could tell it was genuine, like very genuine. I'm just saying, and I just like, I think that's a cool example of what you were saying earlier of like that wanting to give back in that way. And that's like why you serve or are a leader as well. So yeah. This is our like, I guess, last question, and this could be a good one if you know it off the top of your head. But like, what's the most like transformative moment do you think in like leadership that you've experienced? Do you feel like you have one, or?
I don't feel like I have one yet.
Do you feel like you've had any
Like learning moments?
Yeah, even just like really impactful learning moments or anything like that?
I'm trying to rack my brain.
How about maybe not a moment, but what have you learned through your leadership experience?
I think a big thing that I've learned, like, in my leadership, like...
Sorry.
Okay. Something that I've learned in my leadership is how to better connect with people, and how I best can connect with people. Because I've learned that I don't connect with people very well on a big, like, group scale. Like, Thursday night Bible studies are not... I'm not at my best there. Like, a huge group of people is not where I can best connect with somebody, and, like, with that many people around. Doing a one-on-one, I can connect really well with somebody. And just being able to converse with somebody and really be there for them in conversation and connection, I feel like has been a big thing that I've been able to learn, but also just get better at through leadership.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, for me, I tend to avoid larger groups because I feel like it's harder to connect that deeply with a big group of people, which is why I love the small groups, like the table groups that we do. And I mean, I love the other way of teaching, which is like you sit and then you listen to someone talk and there's a ton of people there. But there's definitely, for me, a lack of closeness with that method, which is fine. It's really good to like get a good teaching across a big amount of people, and that's good. Like, I don't want to say it's not good, and it has its place. But for me, I connect really well with people when it's a smaller group, and I can build a deeper connection. And I think Ivy, like, they do that really well, and you guys have done that well of like fostering like, oh, these are the tables, this is where you guys share with each other, and it's a no pressure environment where you can just ask whatever question. You don't necessarily have to bring it to the big group because it might be embarrassing, even though no question's a stupid question. Like, if you don't want to ask the big group, you can ask your little group, you know what I mean, where like these people who you're closer with. Or you could do those one-on-ones with the leaders and ask it in more private. Like, I think that's awesome. And like I connect really well with interpersonal sorry, let me rephrase that. I connect better with people in smaller groups because the connections go deeper as well. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
I was gonna say, like, I really relate to that, like the one-on-one kind of thing. I think that's the way I connect best with most people too. And like one of the things that one of the other main like church campus organizations, ministries I tried, like their thing was like, it was like 200 people like packed in this like tiny room. And although it was cool because it was like a church experience, but for just college people, like it felt so impersonal, you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things I've liked about Ivy. It's very similar to Jaden. It's just like, it is a smaller organization, smaller club, at least on NAU's campus. But then the connections, I feel like, because there's so many less people, are just better. You know what I mean? And I value really, really good connection. And then also I also just really like the way we study scripture. And like, I like having someone explain stuff to me, but when I can like come together with like 5 other people and just like figure it out ourselves, and then like that brain power combined with like 5 other groups, you know, like I'll bring it together and then going back out again and like just like inductively doing it on, like, I feel like that's how God wants us to do it, like get in his word and then take it like for ourselves, not just have someone, not just blind, not that we're blindly believing the pastor at church, but like, I don't know, I just feel like it's so much more productive and personal. Also because when then you're reading it and trying to figure it out for yourself, you also have your own lens that you're looking through. So whatever you're coming up with is like, I feel like can just more relate to you in certain ways, which is, again, is just more personal. So.
And I think it does a really good job at fostering curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm just a very curious person. So being able to ask those questions in those small groups and being able to foster that is really good, I think.
Yeah, I think like what Jana was saying, like there's no dumb question. Like what is this? Why is it like in a pastor setting where there's like 500 people all listening to this one guy? Like that's cool because we trust that he's really knowledgeable. But like if you have a question, you can't ask it. You know what I mean? Like it's not really feasible to do that. But in this sense, at least in an InterVarsity setting, like you can ask any question you want, and we honestly don't answer like half the questions, but it's still like it's still like, I think that was a great way of putting it. Like fosters that curiosity, or like it promotes people to just be like, what questions do you have? Like we want to be a place where like you can be free to ask them and answer them. So I think that's just
being a leader. I think I've learned more how to help other people do that and how to foster their curiosity.
That's really good.
Because leading a table, like trying to pull questions from people and like really call people out and be like, you're just sitting there really quiet. What questions do you have? Like, I want to hear your question. I genuinely want to. And then also just sometimes it's a lot to the pressure of having to answer questions, which I feel like I felt at the beginning of the year. Like, I have to have the answer to this person's question. Mm-hmm. I don't have the answer to this person's question. Yeah. Like, I don't even have as much biblical knowledge as maybe other people do. But still helping them guide people through it and, like, just direct conversation to make sure that everybody gets to say what they want to say and that everybody's point of view is heard.
Yeah, like, I think that's a great point. It's not necessarily about how much you know, but the ability to like get someone else to search out the answers on their own, how much more valuable is that than just being able to answer the question? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And what you're doing by fostering curiosity is feeding that person for a lifetime, because then they'll go out and search the biblical knowledge themselves, and you don't always have to pour into them. And I think that's so, so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I have one more question. If you would tell yourself before coming into leadership one piece of advice, what would you say?
That's a good one.
It is a really good question. I would probably say don't be so scared. And give yourself a little more credit, which, because I'm trying to think back to where I was a year ago and like the kind of mindset I was in. And I think there was a lot of fear there, and there was a lot of self-doubt. And so telling myself that, like, don't be so scared of it. God has you here for a reason. And guess what? Parts of it are really going to suck. And it is going to be really difficult. And, like, leadership will bring up a lot of hardships and a lot of spiritual attacks. And, like, that's okay. You're going to get through it, and lean on the people who are there to help you get through it. I feel like that was a lot of advice wrapped into one.
No, yeah, but like,
So good.
I'll try and sum it up, and I want you to tell me if I got it right. So like, just having confidence, one, in the ability that God has given you to be there in the first place, but also trusting God and those around you to get you through the hard moments that are bound to come with leadership.
Yes, that's a much better way of putting it. Yeah.
Wow.
I just started rambling, but yeah.
No,
basically.
I got to hear all of it, so then that's why. Yeah, like thoughts going through your brain. It's hard to sum it up concisely and clearly. So, I don't.
One more question.
You have another question?
Sorry, this is a lot of questions that just weren't on the thing that we sent you.
No, it's fine.
But how has God been speaking to you recently? And like, if you had one message you could share with like everyone in the world, what would you say?
How has God been speaking to me recently?
Yeah.
I'm kind of at a point of a lot of questions with God right now. I'm not in the best spot I've ever been. I'm in this like season of grief right now, and there's a lot of questions of why, and like, why are you doing this? What is the point of everything? Really big questions that aren't answerable, like literally at all. So I don't even know. I'm honestly like waiting for God to speak to me right now, because I'm at a loss.
Yeah,
So.
those waiting periods are hard. Like, so I see you in that. That's tough.
Yeah. So I guess I can't answer that question.
But then his second question was, if you could tell the world anything, what would it be?
Oh.
The entire world's gonna hear this, so.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
All 7 billion, 8 billion,
8.
9.
8.
Holy schmoly. Isn't it 9?
It's 8 something,
Okay.
right?
I thought it was 9.
Am I about to look this up right now? Okay. What would you tell them?
I'm thinking. I would say that I'm trying to like think back to just the year in general and what I've learned out of it, and like my biggest lesson. And I think it's the importance of prayer. That prayer is really important. And there's been ups and downs in that for me this year, but prayer and reading your Bible, because I've really sucked at that this year. I did so good this is kind of going on a tangent, but I did so good last year, and this year I've not been doing good, which I think is really bad being in a leadership position. So I'm totally, yeah. But the importance of prayer and reading your Bible consistently is really all I've got.
That's been a big thing for me lately too. Like, I don't know if you listened to any of the podcasts where I was talking about like how I was struggling with like relating to God and intimacy and stuff. And so like one thing he was saying was those exact things, was like praying, be more intentional about prayer and reading. And they're very hard things to like consistently do
Mm-hmm.
well. So I completely get that. Yeah. Did you have any more questions, or was that your last one? I don't think I can't think of any more questions off the top of my head. I'm glad you came up with some. Those were good. Oh yeah, I did have a question. Okay, so you're going to be in leadership next year as well. Having been in leadership for a year now, what's like the thing you're most looking forward to next year in leadership?
I'm really excited for apprentices. So that's something that we're starting, like each leader getting their own apprentices to pour into, because that's a smaller group thing. And so like I love being able to pour into people and serve them, and also like having that year experience. I want to help them in that and hopefully realize things earlier than I did, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of things?
Like that you need to take time for yourself.
Okay.
And don't
Gotcha.
push yourself that much. Like push yourself, but also give yourself grace that you can't always do it, and maybe you can't do it right now, and that's okay. And give yourself grace in that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. But I think that's all the questions we have then. But like, thank you for answering those last few on the spot.
Yeah,
Like, that
of
was-
course.
We sent you the other ones, and then Jane's like, I have a few questions for you.
I like the random questions. They were good. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Thank you again for like coming on and just like having a conversation with us. Like, I think I've enjoyed this conversation. Less like learning about you, but then also just like leadership in general. So thank you for that. That's been awesome.
Yeah, of course. I really enjoyed it. So thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, of course. But yeah, I think we're going to pray out quick, and then we'll be done. So do you want to pray?
Sure. Lord our Heavenly Father, thank you just so much for this day and for gathering us here in the studio, just to be able to talk about leadership and talk about what it means to be a servant for you, God. That's truly what we want. We want to just follow your will. We want to just be obedient to you and whatever you want for us, God. I pray that you'd show us and that you'd show the listeners what your will is for their life. If you're calling anyone into leadership, God, I pray that you'd encourage them and embolden them to take that step. God, thank you for Sam, and thank you for her wisdom, and thank you that she was able to come in today and just be able to talk to us. What a privilege it is to be able to talk to one of your daughters, God. It's just so sick, and she just has so many good things to say. And I just pray that everyone listening, I just pray a blessing over them, and that you just protect them this week. And God, that you just speak to people this week through the podcast, through prayer, especially through your word, God. I just pray that you'd be vocal with your believers this week. If it be your will, God. In Jesus' name we pray all these things. Amen.
Thank you for that, Jaden. We'll see you later. But anyway, thank you so much again for coming on and having a conversation with us. Thank you to everyone listening. Again, we're going to have all of the InterVarsity leaders on for this series, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed. Have a blessed week.